All right, let's see here. If I make this bigger, does everyone see it? All right, let me see if I
Yes.
can get more pictures here so I can see faces. Great. Okay, everyone. Welcome to our inaugural Go-to-Market AI Lab. I'm Christine McMillan, one of your hosts for this. I am covering Go-to-Market AI, and I really say covering because things are evolving so fast. It feels a lot like a beat reporter covering it as a situation is unfolding. So we're excited to bring you lots of the up-to-the-minute use cases and things that are changing. I'm joined by my co-host, Pete. You want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hello, everybody. I'm a CMO EIR here at Scale, most recently at Google, and a co-host and friend of Christina for this stuff. I'm super excited that you all joined and took some time out of your Friday.
Great, thanks for that.
Yeah.
So let's see here. All right, so what is Go-to-Market AI Lab? So some of you may have attended our pipeline councils, and as we've started digging into more AI use cases, we've had various iterations of this. If you've attended Summit, you've seen some of this, but we sort of, as talking to various folks in the community as well as the portfolio, we were like, we need to have a place where people can actually roll up their sleeves and kind of work this out. And so I think I said something like, oh, it's kind of like having lab when you had like chemistry. You had to go someplace to run the experiments and figure out what works and what doesn't. So that was the onus for wanting to start Go-to-Market AI Lab. And really, it's because things are changing so rapidly. So we're going to do our best to bring whatever's up to the minute, but I would encourage everyone on this call, if you've tried some things and you have some insights to share, we'd love to hear from you. So please do. We're also going to strive to start doing these bi-weekly, not necessarily on Fridays. I think we're targeting Wednesdays, but every other week. And we'll have various topics and presenters. Sometimes we'll be building, sometimes we'll be watching someone else build or share something that they're working on. But we hope to keep the conversation going and keep bringing some of those insights to you guys. All righty. And as always, like with a lot of our council events, we want this to be interactive. So please feel free to come off and ask questions or add comments or insights as as relevant. And we will have a volunteer today who we're going to be focused on for the building. But if you've got questions as you're doing your own building, please feel free to just jump in. All righty. Why is this not? There we go. Okay. It's worth noting we have several portfolio companies that build solutions for go-to-market AI. And so I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. Feel free to check some of them out because they might be able to cover many of the use cases that you don't necessarily have to build yourselves. So want to make sure we're clear on that. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing these on a bi-weekly basis. Our next one is actually slotted for June 4th, just with the transition to summer. It's a little tricky. And then from there, we'll be going every other Wednesday. Now, on the right here, you see a QR code. We would love to hear from you guys. It's a quick two question survey on what kinds of topics you'd be interested in covering in Go-to-Market AI Lab. So today we're going to be focused on building a custom GPT for prospecting research, but I've talked to other folks about how to use it for content creation or verticalizing content. Or yesterday it was how to use it as a thought partner for coming up with some creative ideas for campaigns. Like there's so many different things that we can apply it to. So please take a look there. I'll try to put it up again at the end, but we'd love to hear the ideas that you'd like to dig into. And we could do that in future sessions. Great. Let's get into the meat. So today is not a formal presentation. Like we are definitely going to be spending the majority of our time in ChatGPT, but I put together a couple slides because I knew after we go through this, people would be like, do you have the notes or like something that I could follow along? So I tried to pre-build that for us to give us a sense of some of the basic instructions that we're going to be going through today. But first I wanted to cover this. It's really important to understand that there are many different ways to bring generative AI into your go-to-market motions. The one that I think most folks are familiar with is prompting. Prompting is absolutely a great place to start. It is I enter in questions or I say, improve this for me. It's just sort of these one-off instances. If your team is not doing that already, I would encourage you to start doing it. But very quickly, especially as I've seen things like in prospecting use cases, naturally, if we start identifying things that are working, we want to figure out how we're going to scale those and how we're going to make them consistent across the team so that we don't just have to rely on every single one of our prospectors being excellent at prompting, but rather we can take those good prompts and apply them across the team. Now, we can do that folks are creating prompt libraries in Google Docs and finding lots of different ways to make a copy paste network out of that. But taking it to the next evolution where we could create a custom GPT allows us to package that in a more user-friendly way. That's what we're going to build today. And it's worth distinguishing that from an agent. Whereas an agent is yet another evolution where we've built a little more autonomy into its ability to operate without the human actually triggering the action. We're going to focus on the custom GPTs today, which I call agent lights, but it's a great next evolution for you to build yourself and is very much something that you and your team can adopt quickly. I'm not going to go through all these individual things again. We'll share this after as a reference. But when it comes to creating a custom GPT, 4 simple steps I just want you to keep in mind. We are still going to use an initial prompt for creating this, and I'm going to go through all of these when we do the demonstration. We're then going to talk about how to enhance the instructions to get the output a little more fine-tuned to what you want. Important aspect of this is then we're going to generate the sample input, sample output, and figure out, do we like this? Like, is it getting it done in the way that we had hoped? And then the crucial sort of ongoing 4th step is iterating on that. How do we make this better and more fine-tuned to the application that we're looking for? So 4 very simple steps. The last thing I'll leave you with, and I'm not going to go through these in detail, you're going to hear me talking about these 6 things over and over again today. And so I've got a cheat sheet here for everybody afterwards that we can provide. But when it comes to building a custom GPT, there are a lot of different things we can layer in. And so I just wanted to have this as a takeaway for you guys. That's it. All right. Let me just take this one down. All right. Is Matt on?
I'm
Matt
here.
Daly. All right. Fantastic. Why don't you introduce yourself real quick, Matt? Matt is our guinea pig for today, everyone.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Matt Daly. I'm the CMO here at Drone Deploy. There are quite a few drone deployers on the call today. I invited my entire team because you said we're going to build
Amazing.
an agent. So I said, sure, let's everybody come and do that. So yeah, we're on our AI journey, I guess, like the rest of you here, and excited to get our team leveled up.
Amazing. Thank you for volunteering to be the guinea pig. And I would just say in the future, if anyone else wants to volunteer to be a guinea pig, I promise we're very friendly about it. But it'll be a great way to get what you need. Now, I'm building this in my GPT today. So Matt, I will copy these prompts and send them to you so you can build them in yours so you can continue to iterate and edit. But that's something just to keep in mind. All right, let me share. And we're going to kind of create this on the fly and interview Matt as we're doing this. So bear with
Yeah,
me.
Portia,
1
you said
second.
present. I'm definitely not presenting anything.
Nah,
I'm here to
nah.
be the guinea pig.
Participating.
Participating.
I'm a
That's
participant.
a better description. Amazing. So okay. So first and foremost, we're here. Our example is we're going to generate a prospecting research report for SDRs to use in their day to day. So Matt, give me just a quick 1 sentence of what you would like to create for. Pretend it's like I need to fix this for my SDRs. They're spending too much time doing their own research. Just give me the 1 sentence problem.
Sure. I need my SDRs to have a really strong understanding of our superintendent persona within the construction vertical, and I want a research agent that's going to help them really understand the pain points for this persona and like how to speak to them in a way that they're actually going to reply.
All right, great. I'm going to paraphrase heavily.
Sorry, it was a really long.
And that's okay. We're going to improve this. So I realize I'm in prompts right now, you guys, like totally. But I think that it's worth noting, first of all, you're going to see several iterations of this same prompt. You're going to get lots of different results. But if we just entered that into a prompt, no problem. Like, you know, we've got some pretty good stuff here. I mean, Matt, you tell me, like, does this feel accurate? Like these are right
My
personas
brain
that we're
can't
going
possibly
after?
read all this fast enough to tell you if it's accurate, but it's
Okay.
directionally correct.
Okay. But there's kind of a lot here, right? Like there's just like a
Yeah,
lot here
this
that may
is
not
this
have
is
anything to do with you guys.
currently not
Okay.
that helpful because it's like really this is just too much. Like I think we asked for one persona and
Totally.
giving me information on like 7 of them.
Totally. That's a great point. Okay. So and I'm being somewhat cheeky here, but like for the effect, but the point is that we can get a lot narrower to what you need. So for anyone following along, the next step here beyond prompting is to go to Explore GPTs and this big button up here in the right-hand corner called Create. Now, I'm amazed still at the amount of people I've seen with either a plus, like some sort of paid subscription, either plus or pro, and they still don't know that this is an option. So excuse me for anyone who's a little further along in their journey. We are going to be as basic as possible to help everybody have the breadcrumbs to get there. So let's click on Create. And we get to this nice little wizard here. So we've got two tabs up here, Create and Configure. Now, once you get really savvy and you've done this a couple of times, you're probably just going to pop right over to Configure. That's no problem. But what we're going to do is enter our same prompt here, which is create a report for my SDRs to go after. Okay. So we're going to enter the same prompt here. And now it's worth it while this is running, it's worth noting. Yesterday I was creating one of these with someone else in the portfolio, and we entered a question. Like instead it was a what are some cool ideas for X? Now it couldn't grok that. Like it was like, this is interesting. And it just kind of answered it like a prompt. When you're setting up a GPT, we need to think of verbs. Like we need to be giving it something to do. And so you want to structure that initial prompt as a verb. I'm asking it to do something. So, okay, so I'm gonna it's looking here. I think I've got my initial one done. So what I didn't create was I just gave it my little one sentence, but what it did over here in configure for me was it tried to take a stab at the more detailed instructions that might be behind my question. So we're going to now jump over to this configure tab. Now, construction sales report builder, Matt, I don't know, that's not really the right label for it,
Nope.
probably.
Yeah.
We want like a prospecting research report, and maybe specific to the construction vertical. Okay, so now I'm going to come down here. So if you guys remember when I flashed that one slide, those 6 elements, these instructions are pretty short. They're longer than my initial prompt, right? But it's like this GPT helps SDRs generate tailored reports for specific industry verticals. I think we can get more specific than that. The first one I want everyone to get familiar with is the persona. Let's tell this GPT who it is. So if we think, who's the person who I would go to help me figure out the best way to do research in an account? Who would that be? Who would that be for you, Matt?
The person I would go to that would help me research this persona, like within Drone Deploy.
It could be within, so I'll give you an example. We could tell this GPT that it's an industry analyst who knows the construction industry really well. We could tell it that if we wanted to get a more high level trends view of research. If we wanted to get a really good sales strategy view, we might say you're a seasoned CRO with this type of experience. Or we might even say you are a savvy SDR with, I don't know, let's call it 5 years of experience selling to construction stakeholders, something like that. I don't know, something like that. You tell me how to improve this, Matt.
Yeah, would it make sense to give it the persona that we're targeting and saying like you are a seasoned superintendent that try to
Yes,
make it the actual persona of that we're targeting?
we absolutely can. I love that. You are what did you say? Seasoned?
Superintendent.
Tell me more.
In construction with 10 plus years of experience in, I guess commercial builds.
I'll just jump in here. I think that's really important.
Yeah,
What you just
please.
said. I made a note here that was, when you say construction, that's an extraordinary, large swath. And so is it commercial? Is it residential? Is it industrial? Right? What market is it in? Is it in, the US, Europe? These things start to matter. And so the more specific you can, the better results will come from more specific information that way. And it's the kind of thing that you can layer on. You don't have to try to get it all at once.
Yep.
Yeah. So we can start here. So this is our persona, and I'm just going to label it as such. And then the next thing that was really important was the instructions. Like, what am I going to tell this to do? And so it's got a little bit of that because we had our verb statement before. This is going to generate tailored reports for specific industry verticals. Is there more specificity within construction that you want to specify?
I mean,
It's okay
again,
if the answer is no.
I think as long as we're talking about commercial construction and not, to Pete's point, not residential, not industrial specifically, although it's good to know that like that's the sort of thing we might need to say to try to capture a different persona.
And I would encourage folks as you're playing with it, like start a little bit broader, see what your results are. Then you can continue to make it a little bit more specific. And if same in reverse, if you're super specific and you feel like it's not broad enough, you can always take some of that specificity out. All right, so we've got our instructions here. It's analyzing landscape, buyer personas, suggesting outreach strategies, messaging templates, etc. So yeah, we want that for ours. So now let's take the next thing. Is there specific context that we would want it to know? So for example, we are more interested in construction companies that have publicly stated X. Anything like that, Matt?
Sorry, can you repeat that? You cut out a little bit on my side. That's companies that have stated what? Sorry.
Well, I just said X.
Yeah.
So like, are there certain attributes, just like we would have for our ICP, that we're looking for when we're doing our research on a company, when an SDR is doing their research? And by the way, if anyone on your team is an SDR, they're welcome to jump in and tell us what you're looking for.
Yeah, we don't unfortunately have any SDRs here, so
Okay,
I would
no
say
worries.
are these like demographic type things, like over 500 people at your company? We did an exercise like this recently where we said, okay, let's call it over 500 employees, and on your website you have some mention of technology, virtual design or virtual design and construction under the services section.
Mention of design and what? Sorry.
Virtual design and construction, or you could say VDC.
Okay. Okay. And I'm actually going to stop at these three. So I know I have 6 elements in mind, but like, let's just see what this gives us. All right. So we're just going to create, and for the sake, I'm going to share this with you after, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to save. All right. And we are, all right. So generate a report. Give me a target company that your team is going after.
Winterton Construction.
Say it again.
SWINERTON.
Swinton.
Yes,
Good.
sorry, SWINE. SWINER. Doing a terrible job of spelling this.
Got it. Good. That's okay. That's okay.
Winterton.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Let's just see what it gives us here. While we're waiting for it to spin here. So there's a couple of things. We're letting it take liberties with how it formats. We're letting it take liberties with the type of information it pulls back, and that's not a bad thing. Rather than having to imagine all of the things you might want and design it perfectly up front, this is where seeing the results can then give us an idea of, oh, I don't like that, I want this instead. And that can make it a lot faster and easier for you to get to that GPT that delivers the results you want. So one thing that's really nice here is, of course, we want to be able to have a little bit of upfront context on what specifically, like they're focused on. This is cool. We've got some key leadership and buyer personas. This is great. What's interesting is I don't see superintendent here. So that might be an area where we can optimize this specifically to our personas. Self-perform capabilities. Okay, so we've got it calling those out. Their particular focus. So I don't know if that matters for you, the type of job site or things that they're going after. That could be interesting. Ideal contacts. Oh, this is fun. Okay. Focus on, Okay. Now, what's interesting here is every time I've run this for different folks, I get wildly different things specified. And that's where if we start to specify what we want here, we can make sure we get it every time, which is where we start to think about the scalability aspects of using these GPTs across our team. So if every SDR entered the same prompt, just in the prompt side of things, they're going to get wildly different outputs, and therefore their time to sift through that information, it's going to get challenging. Whereas if we're used to getting things back in a format, we can do things like jump ahead to the things that the only thing we really needed to customize our message, or we can skim much faster because we're more comfortable with that output. So I think another quick edit we're going to make here is we want to show personas like superintendent, right?
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't really see there yet.
Okay.
It's they're out there, they're on LinkedIn, but they're a lot less active on the internet than
Yeah.
the executive team and the technology buyers.
Tell me,
See Zach smiling.
and other tech buyers in construction companies. That's exactly what I wanted to know. Now, let's maybe take a stab at formatting this, like telling them the output that we want. One is we want to have a company overview. We want to get a sense of key contacts. And that's where I'm going to actually take this guy and move it down. Don't worry about having duplication or things like that. We are going to clean these instructions up later. Actually, we're going to make ChatGPT do it for us, which is even better. What other things do we want? Any public mentions? Oops. Technology, like give me some idea here. Like, what are some of the good examples of things that we're looking for to see if they're more tech forward construction companies?
Yeah, you could say they're building like I would say like any mentions of like exciting new big projects that they're working on, just to get a sense of like, are they announcing new data center build construction? Are they building new hospitals? What is it that they're building?
The mention of innovation on their website is
Love that.
also a big one. And another one that we have kind of as an input is large, complex, and diverse projects across sectors and delivery methods. So it indicates that I can copy paste that into the chat if you like.
I think those might be more like helping us get the right accounts to target. I'm not sure if the SDR team will benefit much from knowing that they have that. I think that's a really good targeting thing for us. I'm just trying to think of like, if I'm an SDR trying to write an email here,
Yeah.
what's the minimum amount of information I need that's going to help me quickly understand how to write a great email that is actually personalized? Um, I they need a hook. They need like a really good, way to actually open the conversation that's going to be interesting. I think the thing that I see that's missing here right now is like, what are the use cases for this persona? And what the heck do we do that actually maps to that?
Yep. Love that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think Matt, what I was just going to add, I think Matt, what you're saying, like that idea of like a hook, that's super meaningful. And you actually, your next sentence, right? Like, what are the use cases? You're kind of sort of trying to answer that there. So I would say, let's see how this goes. But we might want to actually specify, right? Create an engaging hook that differentiates this email from others and so on and so forth, right? So, but I would say, let's see where it goes. But I think what you just brought up there is the exact kind of special sauce that you want to be able to be thinking about.
Okay.
Totally. Love that. Okay. So I'm just going to update it real quick, and then we're going to rerun it with the same company. All right. So, and this time I'm just literally I'm going to try to remember the name. Swinerton?
Yep, you
Did
got
I
it.
get that right? Okay, great. So imagine I'm an SDR. Like the whole point of the GPT is we want to make this really easy. So I don't want them to have to enter a big long prompt. Ideally, they can just literally come to the GPT and enter the company name, and that's it. It knows everything else. So we're going to start trying it from the perspective of an SDR. So we'll give this a second. Okay, now what's interesting is we've added some structure to it. Now, the reason why structure is so important is for skimming and scanning the data so that they can move quicker. What we don't necessarily want to do is make it such that instead of them spending 2 hours or 20 minutes or however long they spend trying to find all the information they want, and then we delivered so much back that they spend that much time digesting it, we want to make it easy for them to scan and skim and get what they need. So now we've got some distinct sections that have appeared based on the way we implied formatting in our instructions. So we've got the overview, may or may not have things we need or don't need. We could even get more specific and in the overview mention these things, like I need to know where they're headquartered because I need to do things like double check that it's actually my account to follow up on, those types of things. Key context, we tried to specify more closer to those roles that we wanted. Let's see, division manager. Still not seeing my superintendent.
Yeah, I
You might
think
have
it's
to
because you let it go look for the tech people, so it found all the tech people.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
that's
finding the
fine.
other harder to find persona.
And that's okay. We can continue to refine this. And then the notable projects and innovations. So this is cool. This is giving us, now these are notable, but not necessarily new. It sounded like new was really important to us. So we may go modify that to new. Potential use cases. These are getting fun. How are these looking to you? Are these closer, Matt?
Yeah, they're just too generic.
Okay.
They're too generic. I actually did this the other day just to have it create personas and started with that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe that would be helpful too, is to like really dial in the personas and use cases and be pretty clear about what we want it to focus on there before we let it kind of go loose cannon and try to figure it out on its own in here.
How much
Sure.
have you found when you're teaching this that adding custom resources, like uploading the actual drone deploy personas, would fix a lot of this?
It absolutely can help. So one of the things, if we look at our configure tab down here, is we can absolutely upload files. What I encourage folks to do, depending on what the GPT is for, in this case, we want it to help match what we do to what that company cares about. So yes, absolutely uploading data sheets, any product information, or anything that teaches it better about what we do and in what circumstances or use cases, it can help us better match that. So that's useful. And by the way, I can't see chat, Pete. I don't know if you can take a
In
look at
there.
chat.
Yeah, that's
I see a lot. Okay, great.
I've
Excellent.
taken on that job. Yes, it's all good.
Amazing.
It's
Thank
fun.
you.
There's a lot of
Thank
great
you.
stuff in there. We're going to need the notes as part of our note collecting union. So, okay.
Perfect. But
Yeah.
yes, Zachary, it's definitely, if we can upload files, like we can give it a little bit more of that detail. And it sounds like, Matt, you and team have created other custom GPTs that you've uploaded files for.
Yes, we've got one so far. Maybe we've created
Okay.
a few more than that, but mostly we've got one that Drone to Play content bot that we're primarily using. But I think part of this is like
Awesome.
we'd like to be creating more. So here we are.
Yeah. And how has that been working for you?
I mean, I'll let someone on the team hop off and chat about it if you want to. The high level answer is like really well, saving lots of time creating stuff. But anybody that wants to pop
Great.
on and talk about it, by all means.
I mean, I'll say I'm a content manager at Drone to Play. It helps me write blogs and captions much, much faster than I normally would have.
Amazing.
At the time.
Amazing. Amazing. It's very powerful. So another thing on the configure that I'll mention too is like, again, this particular example is how do we equip the SDRs to not just copy paste prompts and or keep fiddling with prompts, but how can we get them to the answer faster? These conversation starters, as we start to tune this, in that case, is they can be the way we can instruct them what is needed to enter to get the output that they want. So all of these are just ones that ChatGPT came up for us, but we might take these out and we might literally just say, enter the name of an account. And that's the conversation starter that's going to help an SDR interact with this. So we've got some call openers and we've got other stuff. Let's go back and try to edit this a little bit more. So the persona is an interesting one. Like I'm feeling like we may need to adjust our GPT persona. So instead of having the persona be the actual prospect, I think we need it to be the person who's going after the prospect, like somebody who knows how to find all that nitty gritty detail that we've been trying to ask the GPT to do. But what we can do is we can move our persona down here in that we are interested, okay, context. We are interested in prospecting to seasoned superintendents in construction with decades of experience in commercial builds. Okay. I'm going to try just for ducks here to put in something that's closer to the role that is actually doing this, like an SDR. So you are a savvy SDR / seller who has extensive experience commercial. Sorry, you guys have to watch me type. Commercial construction companies. You know how to figure out who the superintendents are.
I would say like what their pain points are and how to speak to them potentially. And if I'm
Yeah,
thinking of like this,
Mhm.
if this magical SDR that's really good at this would be like going into Reddit, you know, subreddit construction managers and like reading those posts and like getting a better sense of how these people talk about their problems and what their problems actually are before they go in and start trying to pitch solutions.
I love that. And that brings up a theme. This idea, again, you know how to figure out who the superintendents are and what their pain points are, right? There's,
Love that.
yeah. And one of the things that you can do to really help cut through is tell it to, something like, you're, excellent at pattern recognition. You can, read between the lines when scanning news and, see a potential opportunity. It's things like that help the GPT access different capabilities to, be able to find things that you might have overlooked.
Yeah, totally. So one thing we're going to do is we can keep trying to specify this, but it's hard. It's hard for us to try to pull all those things out of our brains to specify. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take this whole prompt that we've been working on, these instructions, and we are going to go over here and we are going to ask ChatGPT to help us. So improve these GPT instructions, and we're just going to paste them in. And it's going to format it. It's going to add some more specification. Now, again, it's not going to be perfect, but it gives us more granularity to be able to edit than we had initially. Okay, let's take a look at this.
Several people in the chat were asking, they're like, hey, do you ever use
Amazing.
to create a prompt? Yeah, so
you absolutely should. Yes. So
awesome.
now let's see what it's done. So we've got still our SDR, experience prospecting in commercial, targeting superintendents. You understand their language, their job site frustration. So it's embellished on the pain points instead of just saying pain points. It's now embellished on them. You know how to dig for intel, whether it's Reddit threads, it added more communities, Procore community forums, ENR articles. Are these relevant, Matt?
Yeah, no, these are great.
Great. So it gave us a little bit more of that. The purpose, it created a little more clarity around the instructions. The beauty is here is we just want to get the thoughts out of our head. We don't necessarily know always how to, like Pete was saying, sometimes it's like we don't know to tell it certain things. And so it can help us instruct it better. So we've now got some assumptions here. So these were our context, and it's clarified some of our outputs here. I'm particularly curious. So I'm going to copy this back. We're going to go back to our instructions here and we're going to overwrite these. Get rid of the little ChatGPT helper stuff here. And Matt, I'm very curious what you mentioned on the use cases. They were super generic. Let's try to zero in on that a bit. How can we make these more specific? I mean, I don't have your data sheets to upload, but like, can we get more granular on the things that we're trying to identify? Are there certain keywords that we should be highlighting here?
Yep. I just did this the other day with ChatGPT, and it was actually like I went and
Okay.
wrote them down. I could just copy them into I guess you don't have the chat in front of you.
Here, maybe
Sure.
I can do it
Why
here.
don't you write eliminate rework and trade conflicts?
Where? Sorry.
Oh, well, anywhere you want. I was like job site documentation compliance. That's
Oh, got it.
like
Yep.
I don't even know if progress tracking into subcontractor accountability is actually fine. Reducing rework and improving safety workflows is fine. Integration with Procore and other things, I would delete that one. That's not a thing that they were probably going to spend much time thinking or talking about. And actually, this and now I'm realizing what you have here is a little bit redundant. Let me come up with uh, maintain schedule integrity and reduce field delays. That's probably good enough. I mean, I'd like to get to be honest, I'd like to get really specific. I do wonder,
Hmm.
or you could take this. Like, I'd love for the SDR to be like, and I think this is the problem with most outbound emails is they're so generic, they suck. And so like the
Hmm.
way that it would be actually good is if you were like, I think the most successful email I ever sent way back in the early days of our company was like, do you ever wish you had X-ray vision into your slab? And you could see like what's actually in there. And that was like so specific that people were like, "Oh, what? What are you talking about?" And that the use case is like you capture what's in the slab before you pour it. And the thing they wish they had was like X-ray vision into their slab. And so like that's the point at which I think these emails actually start to create real value because they're just getting like 3 layers below what ChatGPT is doing us for us here.
I love this. So let's play with that. So uh
You could do the wall version of that and say, "Do you ever wish you had X-ray vision into your walls?" Same sort of general concept.
So I think that's fun because one of the things we can also specify is personality. That goes along with persona, but the tone, especially for anyone doing content creation here, this is where you can be hyper specific about your brand voice, or in this case, the prospecting voice. Like this is a much more cut to the point, casual, like approach to it. And I think it's kind of fun. It sounds like it would be something that would resonate into your walls. So we can specify that. So I'd love to continue to beef up the use cases. You can get as specific as you want here. Doesn't mean it can always return the information. Like if it's proprietary or internal, it can't, but it can summarize what it can find. And so let's just try and run this sucker. See what we get now.
While you're doing that, I made a comment in the chat. It's just that the formatting you're seeing, the double stars, the dashes, that's all a format called Markdown. You don't need to become a student of it, but once you start wanting to have repeatable structured output, it's handy. And there's just a few basic things. So I put a link in the chat.
Great. While this is generating, it's going to take a second or two. What questions do people have? Has anyone else done this already or is doing it along with us here? I saw a thumbs up from Zach.
Christina, as we're doing this, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead,
I
Maria.
think, do people know, and maybe this is obvious, but so like Matt takes the time to refine this. Maybe he does upload some of their fact sheets to refine the use cases even further. But how does he then get this in the hands of his SDRs and how does he share? Are you planning to go there? Because I think that's often
Yeah.
where somebody creates something in a silo that's so good, and it's not used across the whole team.
Absolutely. I love that question. So I've been hitting update and I'm just going to go ahead. Well, let's take a look at these results. But when I first hit that button is create, and then I can choose to have it be only me, anyone with a link, or there's some other specifications. You would basically save it and then share the link out so that your team can access this GPT. every time I update it, I think I can change some of those specifications, but that's how you share it out, is you would share the link. Now the person who created it is the one that can edit it. So that's why I think there's still some limitations on access and permission controls depending on the subscription level that you have. But sharing the link is generally the best way to do that. What I wanted to look is if these got any closer. Okay, so Matt, what we were playing with the tone on this last one, it sort of seeped into our suggested call openers. So it literally grabbed it. If it works, that's great. I reveal what's beneath, ensuring no surprises during your builds, and that's fun. Managing multiple slabs across various sites. How are these call openers comparatively?
The only one I would use is the top one.
Okay. Okay. So
They
we,
need
we still have some refinement
they need
then.
some work. Yeah, they need a little bit of
Mhm.
work. They're getting better. Yeah, like I'd say they're improving, but I'd still say they're too generic.
Yeah, and I think that's where
does kind of lead me
we
to this idea that we might need some like really specific documentation on use cases, and as long as it can be like just reference those, like almost like
yeah.
don't let it try to create something generic like this, because that isn't going to be as useful. But um, maybe if it could combine some of what it's sort of learning when it goes online and is looking at the forums and everything else, it can start to use that as like an indicator of tone. Like it did a nice job of saying something about uh, like doing laser scanning for underground utilities. That's becoming fairly relevant. So it did a nice job of surfacing like the aviation
Hmm.
projects thing that it surfaced here. So it's finding things
Hmm.
that are interesting for us, and that are sort of things that we would want to be targeting. But
Hmm.
the prompts below they're getting there, but they're not there
Yeah.
yet.
And that's fine. And we haven't put anything into this, right? Like we haven't put any of the
Yeah.
concrete guidance in those files that you can upload where you can be more specific. Like if you've got white papers or anything that is sort of hyper specific to a position, those can be very influential to it. And then what what we would do is when we upload those, we can in the instructions advise it to take those as the primary like source of information, like the primary source of information in terms of priority for its parsing. And so we don't have those yet, so we can't put those in here. But I think everybody's getting the idea that it's like we see something we like, we double down on that in the instructions. We see something we don't like, we go back to the instructions and try to filter it out. And then along the way, we're using ChatGPT to help us when we don't have the words. So if we're like, oh, I'm not quite sure how to explain this, but we need pain points. Great, let's pop it in and it can expand on those for us. So I want to be sensitive to time. We're at 10:40 or at 45, depending on where you're located. What other questions? Is anyone else trying to do this? Are you running into any issues? Running into any good outcomes? I'm seeing nodding heads. Anyone want to share?
I guess, Mike, I have a question in regards to those that are seeing success with this. How are you measuring that success against these personas that you're building out? I mean, very similar to, someone just said, I wouldn't even use the first couple lines. Why wouldn't you use those first couple of lines to try them out? Have you tested them in the past? And then what success metrics are you using to test what ChatGPT has produced for you?
Great question, Kat. Was that to Matt specifically?
Yeah, I can share.
Okay.
We're not using this in an SDR format yet, so it's a great like we really need to move in this direction where we're like being more thoughtful about the messaging and how we're testing it. We're really just using this for as Connor mentioned, like our own content production. We then go back and like edit it, change it, update it. But you're right, we don't have like we're not like doing like any real A/B testing here of stuff that this is producing versus stuff that we think is good.
I mean, I might make a suggestion, not just to Matt, but to everybody here. When you do start rolling these out, especially with SDRs, what I've learned in my experience managing those teams for 20 plus years is repetition is key, and having this brought up in every single, meeting that they have as a team, but then also creating some sort of tracking mechanism for your manager and for your directors to feel enabled to be able to follow up with this. I think we can ask SDRs to do these really cool, fun things all the time. But if the director and the manager aren't on board or have a way to really dive in deep to understand what's working, what's not working, who's jumping on the boat with them, right? They're not going to follow through. Even if the direction comes from the top, they'll do whatever they can to chat GPT their way out of it.
And I think that was a great point, Kat. Thank you. The other thing is let's not be afraid to push GPT to give us more specificity. So if we're feeling like this is too generic, we can ask for more specificity, but at some point we're going to have to also directionally tell it path A or path B for more specificity. I know we can't necessarily go into that in the next 10 minutes, but let's just see what happens when we kind of bully it a little.
Can you
More
tell it, go look at Reddit and only pull examples that you see from there? Like, just to make
Yeah.
it the most real?
See what it says. We can absolutely do that in the instructions. So while that's loading, let's see if it'll let me specify that in the instructions here. Da, da, da. Yeah, we have so we don't want all these. We could say focus specifically on Reddit. So yes, in the 6 elements, context and criteria, I think are the ones where you fine tune a lot of this. There's a dial there in terms of how wide do we want the aperture to be versus how narrow. And as you're getting the results back, it usually prompts you to figure out which direction to take it. And so that's when you can specify specific places for it to look for this information, specific places to not include information for. Like when we've created things like people that are using it for content creation, you may specify like only get your inputs from reputable, known sites, for conducting research on blah, blah, blah. And so you can continue that specification dial to see. So let's see here. I modified this.
One of the things I've done is create I mean, it sounds super nerdy, but like an evidence collection protocol, right? Like, and then you can put in there, hey, here are the digital assets that I want you to look at. And then here's some recommended search queries. And you can also give it a kind of do not read, right? Like if you know there are some sources that are out of date or, whatever. So that it'll follow those guidelines pretty well.
Yeah. And again, I haven't put in any product information, but I'm just going to see how it can do this based off of what's on the web. So let's update that. Maria, to your earlier question, in this one I specified, but every time I update it, it gives me the link to copy. And the link is the thing that is what you would share out to the team. So I'm
And
going to
also,
stay in my.
Christine, I'll just make a
ahead.
quick note. So if you're on like the personal subscription, like the pro, then that's the model. If your company has the business version of ChatGPT, then you get to share and edit, and you'll see those in your organization. Also, Christine, I didn't know if you were going to do the upload files thing or not.
I don't have any files
Okay.
for uploading, but it's literally like it's very simple. If you click on it, it's just literally going to take you to a file upload window. I wanted to see if this can. I want Matt to get one thing that he's happy with. Matt, I really want these use cases to get closer for you. So like, how are we doing now?
I would just go to the openers because I think there's lots of stuff you
Okay.
can say in the stuff
I mean, your X-ray vision one is so good, man.
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, that's still the only one I would use. That's, it is what it is. I think what I'm taking away from this though is like we can and should get down in the weeds on the details of the use cases that we think are going to land, and we can use tools like this to kind of fill in the gaps, give us some
Yeah.
other things to maybe try and experiment with, but there's still like what we know probably we should be talking about, and then letting, like I said, letting this tools like this kind of fill in the gaps.
And it's worth noting, look, the original instructions we gave it was to create a prospecting research report. If we wanted to have one to specifically like nail messaging, we should create a separate one. We shouldn't give it too many things to do in one. Like,
Yeah.
let's just have it hyper focused on a task. And this particular task started as research. So it's not nailing call openers. But if we were to reconstruct this to specifically look at things like SDR messaging, we would do things like upload great examples of messaging. We would upload favorite call openers and things like that. And we would ask it to go further. We'd ask it to specify, potentially the tone of our messages, like how casual, how, data driven, blah, 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 that we want them to be. So we're mashing a couple of things together in here by doing both research and call openers, but you absolutely could drill down on that in a secondary one, and keep this one as like research.
Just a quick point on that. So just on the upload files, I see Zach put something in there. So where this can be really helpful is if you've got existing, well-known, good content, if you've got a ICP, if you've got a set of accounts, if you've got messaging that like that, those are things you can add in, and then you can tell in the instructions to use the information in those files as a guide for your search, for your generation, right? That's one. The other one I was going to bring up here, specifically on these quotes. So this happens to me all the time. Like, oh, there's only really one there that I really like. And if you take a moment, this sounds a little bit out of, a little crazy, but if you take a moment and you ask yourself, like, why do I like the one that says, ever wish you had an X-ray? You can take those three, you can put it back into ChatGPT, and you can say, I really like the X-ray vision one. For some reason, it resonates with me and it resonates with our buyers, and I know the other ones don't. Examine the tone and the style and all of those things, and help me understand why the X-ray vision one is so good. And then let's use that information to go create new ones. Right? I know it's kind of like this meta thing, and you start kind of being a little bit more circular about some of these things. But when you iterate at that level, you can really, really tune these things. You get out what you put in.
Totally. We just have a few more minutes left, so please feel free to jump in if you have questions. But I did want to take a minute to remind everyone, we are doing a comprehensive benchmark of go-to-market AI use. And Jamie, if you could pop that into the chat one more time. We invite you to take our survey. We'll be sharing out the results this summer in July. And so we'd love to hear a little bit more about how detailed people's use is around that. Also, let us know if there are other topics. Again, this one was focused on prospect research, although it dovetailed pretty quickly into messaging. So maybe that's a topic we should do next time, Pete, is on the content and messaging side and the author's voice or brand voice. That feels like that might be a unique
Sounds like a good idea.
Anyone have any other questions or comments for the group?
Who got a GPT working?
Yeah.
During this call?
Ooh, I see a couple of hands.
Yeah, nice.
From scratch. Amazing.
Yeah, excellent. That's fantastic.
Christina and Pete, I have a one request. I'm wondering if it resonates with others. Is I'm trying to cut down costs on image and ads and videos and animation. It's always that last mile that kills me, and I'm just wondering if you guys, if you have demand there, if you could run something on that.
On say a little more.
Image generation.
Image creation.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then animations, and then ads.
Yeah, we can dig into that. Find some resources for that.
Like
whether it's
I'll
us or we
specific.
find somebody who's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get specific because I got too broad there myself. Is that, for instance, social media, I would really like more ads and images and animations, and we do all that, but somehow it's the last mile or consistency at volume that's hard. And yet I know people are doing it.
Yeah, I'll tell you just my own experience. There's the new image gen for ChatGPT is freaking awesome. It is pretty stellar. And the new Imagen model from or Imagine model from Google, it's in Gemini. That thing is also kind of out of this world. If your company has an Adobe Creative Suite subscription, then you'll have access to their Firefly model, which is crazy good, and you can use it without ever having any fear about copyright because of the way they've done all of their training has been through legal training of all data that's been offered to them. So yeah, I mean those are three things, but it's more of a workflow issue, I think, Anita. So we can maybe tackle that because it's one thing to do one, it's something different to try to do it 5 times.
Yeah, and not to go too long here. I love what you said, Pete, and that's why I pushed my teams, is because I did look at the ones you mentioned, because you're right, they're incredible. Just 2 quick things. One is I find myself using those to generate and then give it to my designer. So it's saved a little cost, but I'm like, it's still really expensive. And number 2 is that I think I have Canva AI and my subscription has not ended, and that's gotten really amazing, especially at coding. So if it's possible, if we could broaden it to Canva AI as well as Firefly, that would be incredible.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and Adobe Express is a free tool. Inside that, it's similar to Canva. Canva is, I think, easier to use. But yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, keep sending me ideas.
Love that. Any others? Any other comments?
Thanks, team. That was fun.
All right, folks. Matt, we're not done. We're going to figure out how we help you get there.
This was a wonderful
Hope
start.
it was a good primer. Good. Thank you for being our guinea pig. We appreciate it. All right, folks, I hope for those of you that are able to create one from scratch that this was fun. We're going to be bringing some guests in, or if you have something cool you've built, please let us know. We'd love to have you show it to the group. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
See y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.